All right, so I got a quick question for you, Saints fans. I want you to call him out for me. Who's a player that you think needs to bounce back this season? In today's video, I'm going to go through 5 players who I believe will bounce back in their 2024 season, but I want you to call somebody out and tell them to play better this year. So first player that I think will bounce back in 2024 is none other than Wham Bam Thank You Cam. I believe that number 94 is due for a big-time year in 2024, and I don't think that the 2023 campaign was anything that we should be too concerned about. And in 2023, why was it so bad? Well, we saw career lows in tackles for loss, sacks, and quarterback hits, and that is excluding his rookie season back in 2011. So this has been the worst year since his rookie year, and it's unfortunate, but let's not act like there was nothing going on. He was playing through an ankle injury, and at the end of the season, he actually disclosed some of the injury information. Ross Jackson posted on social media. His injuries included a compound high and low ankle sprain, herniated C3/C4 neck injury among them. So the guy was playing through a lot. He was playing tough, and to be honest, I challenge any of you to try and play any sort of sport or do any sort of physical activity with those kind of injuries. But I do believe this. He is still one of the smartest, one of the most talented, and one of the most respected pass rushers in the National Football League. And I think that we can understand that because of what we saw over the past couple of days. So Von Miller, Cameron Jordan, and Max Crosby over with the Raiders, they hosted the Sack Summit in Las Vegas, and here is a clip of Cameron Jordan giving out tips to some of the different players. And we saw New Orleans Saints guys like Isaiah Foskey, Carl Granderson, Peyton Turner, and Nico Lalos all at this summit, which is pretty cool to me. So the fact that he is helping host this Sack Summit in Las Vegas, like that to me just proves that the NFL and the players around him and the players at their positions, they all respect Cameron Jordan and view him as one of the best in the National Football League right now. And when you look at the depth chart, I do think that this defensive line did improve over the offseason. They signed Chase Young, and I think that that's going to open up a lot of opportunities for Cameron Jordan because, hear me out, he's going to be on the field less, but he's going to be more fresh when he has to go. Colin Saunders, I think, is going to have a good year. Nathan Shepard was actually pretty surprising in terms of the production and the contract that he signed. Carl Granderson, I am really hopeful for him this year. We do know that Tano Passanio is dealing with an injury, but I'm looking at guys like Isaiah Foskey and Peyton Turner to really turn things up this season. Now, I also will say this. Go get creative with Cameron Jordan. I mean, this is one of the best pass rushers in the National Football League. You don't have to have him line up on the outside. You can line him up on the defensive tackle spot too. Line him up on the interior. Put your 3 best pass rushers on the field when you need to. And I think that he still has a lot of gas in the tank. I think he's going to prove a lot of doubters wrong this season. And I'm really excited to see what Cameron Jordan can do this year. Now you tell me, Saints fans, get down in the comment section. How many sacks do you think Wham Bam Thank You Cam will have this year? I want you to share your thoughts. I'm going to be responding to you guys in the comment section, so take a quick second and comment below. All right, another player I do believe will bounce back this year is Marshon Lockdown Lattimore, baby. I mean, the reason I think he's a bounce back season, and it's not because it's been bad production, but it's because the situation he's currently in. He has missed 17 games over the last 2 seasons due to injury, and you know why I think this is important, and he has to play really well and he has to be available. It's because he has no guaranteed money after this season, so that means the New Orleans Saints could trade him and could move on, and it's actually a little bit easier than it would have been, a couple seasons ago when it would have been way more expensive and hard to manage. But there is some tough decisions in the cornerback room to make because you added Kool-Aid McKinstry, because Paulson Adebo has played so well. What is Alontae Taylor going to look like in the nickel? We don't know the answer to these questions yet, but Marshon Lattimore, without a doubt, is one of the best cornerbacks in the National Football League when he's healthy. It's just going to come down to a few things to monitor. So what is Kool-Aid McKinstry's role? That is going to have an impact as to what happens with Marshon Lattimore. Are they going to move on from him? If he doesn't play well and McKinstry plays really well, what's going to happen with him? Maybe the Saints move on from him. What about Paulson Adebo? Does he earn a payday? Does he play so well that he outperforms any sort of contract that the Saints would be able to afford to give him? That's something to monitor too. If he doesn't, then the Saints I think would be stupid not to want to bring back Paulson Adebo. Now, Alante Taylor, let's talk about his development in the slot, because if he can't play in the slot and the Saints want to move him outside where he has shown he can be successful, then that's something that could also impact the future with Marshon Lattimore. And the biggest question, and it's a question for any single player in the National Football League, can he stay healthy? I mean, this player, like we said, the past 2 seasons has missed 17 games, and that's not good. You want your best defensive player and one of the best players in the league to be on the field as much as possible. Now, there is no doubt Marshon Lattimore has that confidence. He has that swagger. He has that mindset that says, I'm going to dominate this year. And Marshon Lattimore is actually asked about where he thinks that he ranks among the top NFL cornerbacks in that conversation. And without even letting Mike Triplett get the question out, he said, I'm number one. I'm number one. And the stats are great. The last 2 seasons, maybe not as great. But, again, limited sample size. But when he is back and when he plays, it's pretty damn good. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that only 1 interception last year and 1 interception in 2022 is amazing, but let's also not act like this player just hasn't been a lockdown guy. He is an island guy. He takes away an entire side of the field. I think that Marshon Lattimore will be much, much better this year. He's shown up to practices, he's getting active, and I think that he is going to be an effective player, and I hope that he can stay healthy, because I would love to see Lattimore stick around in New Orleans for the foreseeable future. Now, I will say this, just if you wouldn't mind, consider subscribing to the channel. We have over 28,000 passionate Saints fans that have subscribed to Saints Now by Chat Sports. So if you want daily buzz, news, rumors, live shows, videos, all sorts of hot takes, engaging videos, audience interaction. If you want that kind of environment, and you want that kind of community on YouTube and on social media, I encourage you to subscribe. It's a lot of fun. I am passionate about my job here, and I'm a diehard Saints fan. So if you want content by Saints fans for Saints fans, I would ask you to consider hitting that sub button. So Chase Young, he's a player that needs to bounce back, and my thing with this idea of a video was they at one point had to show that they were really good. And for me, Chase Young, his rookie year, he showed that he could be a dominant force in the professional field. Now, I do think that he's going to be really, really good with the Saints because he has a lot of pressure on him. This is a player who only has a 1-year contract, is at risk of having the term and the label of being a bust, injury prone, just total waste of a second overall pick. I'm not saying he's a waste of a pick, but he has so much high hopes and so many, so much praise coming out of college at Ohio State. And now this is a guy who can barely stay on the field because of injury, and there's questions around his effort and whatnot. But we do have positive injury updates. This isn't new news, but this is news that has been the most recent news, and we've shared this graphic before, but if you haven't seen it, here is the update. He's been at the facilities every single day and at meetings. He hasn't gotten action at the field, so this is talking about at minicamp and at OTAs. He hasn't been active in terms of practicing and getting in reps, but he's been meeting with the team. He's been meeting with the coach. He's been present at the facility, which is really good news. Dennis Allen sees a guy that's motivated and going to have a great year. And in the injury, he was dealing with the neck injury. He had surgery a few weeks ago, a little bit of over a month ago. And yeah, so we're hoping that he can be ready to roll for week 1. There is no time, or not no timeline, but there is no expectation that he's going to be 100% ready at training camp. The idea is that he can be ready to roll for week 1. And I mean, in 2023, he matched his highest sack season, which was set in his rookie year with the Washington football team at the time. And in 2021, regressed big time, but only played 9 games. 2022, only played 3, and that's where it really, really hurt him. So I do think that Chase Young needs to get active, and I think that he can be a really good pass rusher and be a really good sack artist, and I think that's why the New Orleans Saints brought him in. So last year, Carl Granderson led the New Orleans Saints at sacks with 8.5. Chase Young had 7.5 last year. So who's going to lead the team in sacks? Just type their jersey number down below. Can't wait to see what you got to say. Alvin Kamara, I think, will bounce back this year as well, and part of that is because I think he has a lot to prove, and also part of that is just purely because the offensive scheme caters to him so much better. Now, Alvin Kamara, he is playing to keep his job because as it stands right now at what am I looking at? June 3rd, 4:19 p.m. in 2024, right in this moment, the future plan is Kendre Miller. Things can change, things can move around, but that is what the plan is for the New Orleans Saints long-term right now. And he still needs to prove that he is a productive player. We're going to show you some numbers here in a second because the numbers last year, they were down, but I don't think that they were so down that you should be concerned. And Kubiak's offense, he has been preaching that he wants it grounded. It's going to be a wide zone run scheme, and they're going to be there's a lot of emphasis on efficiency in the red zone. There's a lot of emphasis on spreading out the ball, creating plays, and catering towards Derek Carr and whoever the running back is, whether it's a Taysom Hill, whether it's a Alvin Kamara, Jamal Williams, whoever. So I think that his production will significantly improve purely because of the new offensive system. And over the last 4 years, the numbers in 2023 were not good. They were down in pretty much every metric outside of his rushing touchdowns, which, yeah, he got 5. That was awesome, but I mean, I'm also old enough to remember when he had 16 one year, so, you know, that would have been pretty cool. But I also want to say this. I do think that AK doesn't need to have a 1,000-yard season. Like, there's this whole discussion of he's never had 1,000 yards. Alvin Kamara's washed. He never will have 1,000 yards. And, like, I'm not sitting here saying that this is a player who has to have 1,000 yards to prove that he is still a capable running back and deserves to be a starting running back in this league. I mean, look at the players since 2017 that have had 1,000+ yards that were 29 years old. So right now, Alvin Kamara is 28. So if he doesn't get 1,000 yards this year, then, you know, we're having a different conversation, and he may never have 1,000 yards. It's only been 6 different guys. Derrick Henry, he's the king. Mark Ingram, a familiar face. Adrian Peterson, former Saints legend. Raheem Mostert, Carlos Hyde, and LaShawn McCoy are the only 6 players since 2017 that have had 1,000+ yards. And I think Alvin Kamara, I don't think he needs to get to 1,000, but I do think that he needs to show that he can be efficient. I think he needs to get somewhere around 700 to 800 yards and get back to, you know, 500, 600, 700 yards in receiving as well. If we can get like 1,100, 1,200 all-purpose yards, I'm okay with that. Jamal Williams, I also think he's going to bounce back because last year, I mean, it's a very simple thing. It was just lack of usage. It was incorrect usage, and it was being unaware of what his skill set was. Or not unaware, but it was just not catering to his skill set. This is a very simple fix. Just use him correctly. Use him in the right situations. Offensive line, play better. Like, there is not a lot of things that you have to do to really fix Jamal Williams and what he does. He is a bowling ball. He is a hard player to tackle, and he is the boom to Alvin Kamara's zoom. I know that it's not the same comparison because of Mark Ingram, and, you know, in Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara, that was just such an amazing duo, one of the best in franchise history. You had the Reggie Bush, Pierre Thomas. I mean, like, I understand the boom and zoom has always worked for the Saints. You kind of have your boom right here. It's not the same as, I'm not comparing them to Pierre Thomas. I'm not comparing them to Mark Ingram, but the role, yes, that is what I'm saying. You have that. And also, it comes down to offensive line. You have to execute your assignment. So please, dear offensive line, please, 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 please just execute your assignments. Let your running backs, or give your running backs, clear lanes. Give Derek Carr time to throw the ball. Take care of the player that you're supposed to block. Don't get stupid penalties. It's a lot easier said than done, and it's really easy for a husky guy who makes YouTube videos in a studio in downtown Dallas to say all this shit, but at the end of the day, that is their job. You have to execute, and if you're not executing at a high level, things need to change. So this is also something I found really, really interesting. So what this metric is showing here is yards before contact per attempt. So every single time that they carry the ball, Alvin Kamara rushed 2.3 yards before contact. Kendre Miller, he rushed 1.8 yards before contact. And Jamal Williams only had 1.5. And that's not really good if you ask me. I think that there's a lot to prove there. And that just says that whenever you're trying to carry the ball and you're trying to make plays, you don't even get the opportunity to because you're getting stopped before you can make a play. So, I mean, you got to give your running backs a chance here. That's just what it comes down to. You have to give them the opportunity. Give Jamal Williams more than 1.5 yards to carry the ball and build some steam ahead. He could probably run through a couple, excuse my French, what Marshon Lynch always said, run through a face. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure he could do that if you gave him the opportunity. But this is coming out the day before 4th of July. So, thank you guys so much for tuning in to today's show. I want to say happy 4th of July. Have a fun and a safe holiday. Don't pull a Jason Pierre-Paul. Don't overserve yourself. And please, please, please call an Uber if you do have too much to drink or have too much fun. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm going to be hanging out with my family tomorrow. So I can't wait to hear what you guys had to do with your 4th of July plans. But have a fun and safe holiday. Y'all stay golden.